Now, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky kicked off the World Economic Forum in Davos by calling on allies to stop using Russian energy and cut all trade ties with Moscow. Well, Canada's industry minister has told France 24's business editor Kate Moody that all options are on the table with regards to how to respond to Russia's aggression. Here's an excerpt of that interview.
François-Philippe Champagne, you're Canada's Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry. Thank you for being with us on France 24 today.
It's a real pleasure.
First of all, I want to ask you about Russia's war in Ukraine. President Zelensky has called on countries that support Ukraine to cut all trade with Russia. Canada has already scaled back in areas like luxury products. Is the government prepared to go further?
Everything should be on the table. I think what you heard from President Zelensky and what we should all be asking each other before we go to bed every night, what more can we do? The call to action is now. President Zelensky has been very clear as to every country should be looking. Thankfully, I would say in Canada, our trade with Russia was already very limited. So we put additional sanctions. We've been working with the European Union, with our American partners, to put, I would say, the set of sanctions, which is probably the greatest in the Second World War. But we're always looking for more. So yes, we banned some luxury products around diamond, vodka coming to Canada. But I say more broadly, what we need to do is really to put maximum pressure, both diplomatically, economically, and politically on Russia to stop that war. In more than 2 months, what you've seen is Vladimir Putin has erased 80 years of history in Europe. Who would have thought that we would have war in Europe now? And that has created inflation, has created, misery for tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people who have been affected by that. This needs to stop. And each and every one of us, our Ukrainian friends are fighting for democracy. They're fighting for the rule of law. They're fighting for dignity. And what we need to do as the international community is really to work together. We've never been more united. I mean, you've heard that, NATO, the international community, we've been united in putting maximum pressure to send a clear signal that this needs to stop right now.
Europe in particular is facing a real energy crunch at the moment. Canada, major producer of mostly fossil fuels, but what role can it play in easing those tensions in the energy market in a sustainable way?
Totally. No, I spent the week in Germany before coming to Davos, and energy security is on the lips of about everyone in Europe. And what I said is that the will to help is there from Canadian. Now we need to work on the capacity. As you said, the world has changed on us in a very quick way. What we need to keep is the big goal is to decarbonize our economy. I think President von der Leyen has said we need to double down on renewables. Now, we may have to have stopgap measure to make sure that we can support our friends in Europe at the time of need. But we need quickly to transition, for example, to hydrogen, to make sure that we are renewable, that we never face the same, that we're not dependent on that. And that's really the vision we have, and that's the discussions I had with a number of colleagues, and namely in Germany, to see what could we do in the short term, but with the clear vision that the world we want to be is a decarbonized world, and we need to invest, we need to double down on renewables.
To what extent have Canadian businesses been affected by the supply chain disruptions that are dogging industries around the world?
Well, all of us. I mean, you remember I was Foreign Affairs Minister at the time of COVID, and it was shocking for us that despite the billions we have been investing, for example, in health, we were all scrambling for vaccines at the beginning. Now we've seen microchip. We've seen now the geopolitical aspect, which are changing supply chain. What I see is that global supply chain are becoming more regional, and there's clearly more emphasis on resiliency than pure efficiency. So in a world like that, what I've been saying to my European counterparts, the European Commissioner, our U.S. colleagues, is to say, let's look at something among trusted partners. Can we plan the future for the next 20, 30 years so we don't find ourselves scrambling like we have now to have more resiliency in our industry, whether it's in aerospace, whether it's in car manufacturing, whether it's in biomanufacturing. So I think we just need to get smarter. We understand that supply chain are rapidly changing. My German friends call that local for local. And I think in that, what I'm putting Canada forward is to be part of the solution. We could be helping a number of countries to green their supply chain, to be the green partner of choice when you're looking at your supply chain.
And one area in particular where you're focusing a lot is the electric vehicle market. Canada really trying to secure its own supply chains for that industry. Can you access enough raw materials for things like electric batteries?
Well, the good news is that we have all of them. And if you look in the Western world, Canada is the one which has been lucky enough to have all the critical minerals. So what we've done is really a vision from mine to recycling. Because, as humanity, it doesn't really make sense to mine in Africa, to refine in Asia, and to build battery with coal. So we say there's better alternative than that. And I think the word that I hear from most manufacturers is proximity. Proximity to resources, proximity to market, proximity to the assembly line. And the fact that you can produce that with renewable energy is a big differentiator. So we really relaunched or created a whole ecosystem where we can produce green steel, green aluminum, green batteries, and eventually potentially green semiconductors. I'll give you an example. For example, with green aluminum, which we're producing in Canada, now Apple has said that their phones are going to be made with green aluminum, the next generation. So that's the type of thing that I think consumers want to see. I think investors would like to promote. And certainly as government, that's certainly the way we want to see a decarbonized economy, and that's very tangible for consumers.
How do you balance, though, that idea of proximity with the very global economy that has been built over the last few years and that, it has to be said, is what's represented here at the World Economic Forum?
Well, I'm a believer in international trade. I used to be the International Trade Minister of Canada. I signed the CPTPP at the time. We have a great agreement with our colleagues in Europe to the CETA agreement. I believe in that. However, that being said, we need to make sure that we have resilient supply chains so that we don't find ourselves. So with trusted partners in Asia, in Europe in particular, Canada is seen often as the most European country outside of Europe. So we are a trusted partner. So what we're talking with the European Commission, with our U.S. friends, is to say, how can we plan a bit better the future? I think that, we didn't choose the pandemic. We're not going to choose whether there's another one, but we can choose to be better prepared. And for me, I think that that's what citizens are expecting from us, is to be smarter in how we organize that. Yes, international trade. We're not going to be producing everything either in Europe or in North America or in Asia. But for the critical components, look at vaccines, for example. Look at, for example, semiconductors. There's a thinking now, a rethinking of these supply chains to say, you know what, we might not be able to do everything, but the things that matter most, that we need, that are going to be critical for so many industries, even for saving lives when it comes to vaccine, I think that having more domestic production in certain key areas is what people are expecting from us. Yes, global trade, but at the same time, smarter supply chains.
François-Philippe Champagne, thanks so much for joining us on France 24. And thank you for watching. Stay tuned. There's more coming up.
France 24's business editor, Kate Moody, there at Davos. That's it from me. I'll be back at 9:30. That's in about 5 minutes from now. Stay tuned.
Have 2 years of